Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good, presented by Betches Media. Today, this is a long time coming. This next guest has not been on this podcast for years, and he really is one of my favorite guests. And today I was going to do a solo episode, and I was like, screw that. I want to actually talk to somebody, and I want to talk to somebody that I enjoy talking to. Now, I want to let you know, I pretty much am diametrically opposed to everything he says. We completely disagree on most everything, but I will say, I really respect this guy's opinions, and I love to talk and potentially argue with him. You might know him as the host of a podcast that is now on pause. It's called Unpopular. There's also a Patreon. I'm going to put all that information in there for you guys to check out older episodes and join the Patreon. But he's also, he sometimes reports for the Daily Mail, and there's a lot of other things coming up for this man as well. So welcome back to the show, Jacques Peterson. Welcome back to the show, man.
Oh, it's good to be back. And I missed my usual intro from you, which is I disagree with every single thing he says, but I love him and here he is.
I kind of said that. I said it in a different way.
I know, you say yes. You say that every time, but it's fine.
Well, listen, so the big news, you moved to Los Angeles. You're an Angelino now.
Yes, and I absolutely love it here. I mean, it's a hot mess, but I love it.
Why do you absolutely love it? Explain to the audience.
You know what? Australia is, okay, you know that Rachel Ray gun, that break dancer that's going viral? That is just Australia. It's so fucking cringe, and I'm just so glad to be here. You know what? They say it's a land of opportunity. It really is. For someone like me working in media, a creative person, there was nowhere for me to go in Australia. And then, I came here last year for the first time for a holiday. I was here for like a month, and I ended up doing all these things. I was like going on these big podcasts, and I started working on like a TV show that I was creating. It was just like the opportunities were flowing, and I'm like, I have to move here. Now I'm here. There's, crackheads everywhere and garbage and encampments and, unemployed models / escorts strutting the street everywhere, but I love it.
And that's just the cast of Vanderpump Rules. Well, I mean, listen, I will say, having said all of that, it's still kind of an amazing place to live. I mean, I truly love, I've been in Los Angeles so long, and it's what I can't imagine ever moving here. But you did mention Australia, and you mentioned Reagan, the breaker from Australia. And I think we might agree on this, because I'm kind of livid the more I find out about Reagan, is that she's a breaker, but she doesn't seem extremely talented at breaking. And now she's trying to argue that like she worked really hard, but it turns out like she was part of the governing board on choosing her to actually go to the Olympics.
Yeah, she's a participation trophy Olympian, and it's just completely embarrassing. And when I saw it going viral, like everyone was sending it to me because I'm Australian, and I was like, you know what? I don't want anything to do with this. I left Australia. I don't claim this. This has nothing to do with me. Australia can deal with that shit. Yeah. And I'm here in Hollywood going to Air One with my Hailey Bieber smoothie and just being a generic ass transplant trotting around Runyon, and just leave me the fuck alone.
Oh my God. Are you doing Runyon Canyon? Are you hiking Runyon?
I live right near Runyon, and I go to Runyon every day. So,
oh my God,
yes.
I used to do Runyon all the time. Like that was my favorite. Have you tried Freier Canyon over the hill?
No, but I have to.
Yeah, you would love it. It's right by Ventura Boulevard. It's really, and it's like right up, like you can, on the way down, you go past like George Clooney's mansion and the old front of what they used to, like on the old Kardashians, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, they used one of the houses as where Kris allegedly lived, but it wasn't her house at all. They just used the front of it.
Yeah,
Hollywood,
I love
baby.
it. I love it. And I know that Runyon is like really cliched, and I sound like a douche whenever I say that I, go to Runyon every day, but I'm
awesome.
I'm from a small town. I actually love nature. And one thing that is so beautiful about LA is it's like this big filthy city, but it's surrounded by, all these canyons and like hiking places and nature. So, I can be strutting down trashy Sunset all day and, working from cafes and everything. And then I finish work and then I'm like on Runyon for a hike surrounded by models, and I love it.
Yeah, by the way, if you go to Runyon, you are going to go see the future cast of The Bachelor or Bachelorette. Like they should do casting calls at the top of Runyon, like because you always see people that will eventually be on reality television.
Oh, there's a little like food truck here, right near Runyon. I think it's called Cowboy Coffee. And what it is literally like four. I mean, they have to be gay, but it's hard to tell actually because there's a lot of straight men. You're like, he's gay, and then you're like, wait, I think he's straight, even though he's like running around with no shirt and carrying a chihuahua. But it's this little food truck, and it's like the hottest models. I mean, these guys are like 12 out of 10, and they're wearing old like Levi's jeans, like they're in a Levi's commercial from 1995. The most incredible bodies, and they're just making coffee for you shirtless in this little food truck near Runyon. I'm like, very LA. You know what, as well, I will say, before I got here, I thought that seeing all the hot models was going to make me really insecure. I was like, God, I'm going to get here and I'm going to feel so old and so out of shape and just so ugly compared to all these hotties. And then the more you see them, it's like, they're just such douches. It's like, put a fucking shirt on. Like, you look ridiculous. Like, why is your shirt off?
So you just said how much you loved it, but now you think they're douches at the same time.
Well, I like checking them out, but it's also like, you're a douche. Like, put a shirt on. Like, this is ridiculous.
That's
and they're
Los
unemployed.
Angeles.
They don't have a job. So I'm already like, well, I'm further than you on the career ladder. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm not actually that insecure around you. Like, I have like an actual life. Like, you're going to burn out and move back to Wisconsin and be a barista.
I don't think I can't imagine you ever insecure, Jacques. I mean, you seem like you never fight with insecurity. Like, it seems like you're pretty confident in yourself.
No, I am the most insecure person. I'm like a tightly wound Virgo. I overthink everything. Actually, I've realized recently that it's a real problem because I feel like you might be the same as me. My mind constantly goes to the worst place. Like, I get like I get a seed of something, and like I had a meeting with someone I work with the other day, and I had worked up in my head that like there was this whole thing of like the office hated me and like I was about to get in trouble and all this shit. It was crazy. And I got there and it was like everything was fine. There was literally no problem at all. And now I've started dating again, which I had not dated for.
I was going to ask about that. I was going to ask if you're on the dating scene in like, are you going to the West Hollywood bars? Are you doing the whole thing?
No, well, I'm trying to avoid the typical WeHo gay because I'm trying to, find a husband. But I have not been dating for a million years because, I just wasn't into Australian guys. And I also was living in a small town for the last few years through like COVID.
They're all break dancers in Australia.
Yeah, they don't have time for me in their schedule. They're going to break dance practice. But I started dating here again, and it's crazy because I'm not even exaggerating. I feel like I've gone back to being a teenager that's never been kissed. I don't know how to do anything. I don't know how to read signals. I don't know how to kiss anybody. I don't know how to make them like, I can't do anything. And, dating brings out your insecurities because as soon as you don't get a text or something, again, the brain goes to the worst place.
Everything. Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's like the whole,
they hate me.
Exactly. And then there's that when you go back and forth of like, oh, they hate me. No, that's crazy. They're going to text in the next hour. And then they don't text in the next hour. And you're like, oh, they fucking hate me again. And then you're like, no, something like one of their parents might've passed away. Something insane happened. And then it gets to a point where it's like, they definitely obviously don't like you. Like it's been too long where you're like, oh, I can't even play that fun game in my head anymore. It's just, they don't like you. I was talking to my therapist yesterday and we were talking about that of, how I think everybody hates me all the time. And I create problems. Like I fully will create those situations. And then, also she pointed out, she's like, nobody's probably, she didn't use the language. Nobody's even fucking thinking about you, like nobody, nobody's like thinking about you at all. So it's like I will bash myself in a very narcissistic way. Like it's so narcissistic to think that everybody hates you or they're not even thinking about you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I've been getting very LA advice from like Zach Peter, friend of the pod.
Oh, my Zach.
Yeah.
I love Zach.
So I told him,
by the way, Zach seems like he knows how to like,
he's getting out there
and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, he used to not. He's actually, people don't know this about Zach Peter. He's actually very introverted. Like he's totally different than the Zach that you see on podcasts and everything.
You find his story. No, his story really is kind of interesting because he's been doing this so long and he started off a little heavier, like a decade ago, or I don't even know how long. And he really worked his ass off to get where he is, but it is like, you know, he looks a certain way and everything's like perfect and he works so like, but it is interesting to see like how hard he worked to get there, because I always thought, you know, oh, he's always been like he is now. And that's not the case.
Yeah, no, it's a new thing for him. He dyed his hair black. He's started
Got
hitting
the
the gym
beard.
now. Yes, he's got the beard.
Now, yeah.
And now he's like, he's out there and he's out and about and he's like super, you know, he's killing it. And I look to him as like, wow, that's like inspo for me, because that's where I want to get to be. And like, you know, I told him, I'm like, well, you know, I went on a couple of dates with this guy and I think I really like him. And he seems to have, you know, really good values and really decent person. And Zach's like, you need to keep your options open. You need to get on Tinder. You need to be dating like all these other people and not put all your eggs in. I'm like, oh, okay. And now I'm like signing up to Tinder Platinum and stuff. Like, is that what I'm meant to do? Like, so I had no idea.
Wait. I don't know if that's the best. Like, no offense to Zach, but I don't know if that's the best. Like, I would say go with your heart. Like, I think it's always like the best to, I don't know, but like, obviously Zach knows.
I'm
way
usually
more than
like that, but like I said, I don't know what I'm doing. So I ask a friend and then they'd like, do this. And I'm like, okay. Like, cause then you start thinking in your head though, you're like, well, now I like them. So if they don't like me back, now I'm going to get left being crushing on this person that doesn't like me. So maybe I should get on Tinder. So it's, you know, it's a vicious cycle, but I am loving it here.
Oh my God. Well, listen, I barely leave my cave, but we should hang out sometime in the real world. We should.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. Yes, of course. Yeah. And you know what? Sorry to interrupt you, but yes, I would love to hang out, because I came here with some really solid friendships. And then I don't even know if I can be bothered going into this story. No, I have a best friend here. We're fine, but something really crazy happened, right? Where basically he found my Instagram account logged into his work computer while he was out. By the way, I did not touch his computer. I wasn't anywhere near it. And then he was like, he thought that I was like going through his computer. And I'm like, I swear to God, I didn't. I have no idea why my social media is on your computer. And I was actually, this makes it even worse, I was left alone with the computer. So it was kind of like, who else could be?
I mean, wait, obviously you had to have checked your Instagram on the computer, because you didn't put your Instagram on. There's no way, Jacques. There's no way he put your Instagram on his pic. Listen, I got to side with this friend here, because, by the way, it's fine. It's fine to use his computer to check your Instagram.
No, wait. I know it's fine, and I would totally have owned. I'm telling you, I did not touch it. I don't even have because when you get into a MacBook, you've got to log in past, you know, when you open the MacBook and then you've got a Touch ID or whatever to get into it. Yeah, like I don't have any of that access. Like, there's no way.
You obviously picked up a print of his on a glass or like a pizza box or something. You got his fingerprint, and you made like those Mission Impossible. By the way, this could be Zach Peters setting you up. He could be doing like a punking you right now or something, you know?
What's crazy about it is then people are saying to me, they're like, well, he must have gone into, you know, he must have been using your social media. And I'm like, he actually wouldn't do, like, he's not that kind of person. It's crazy. We haven't solved it. I used his computer a year ago. So I don't know if it was some, like, with his permission, obviously, when I was in LA last year. So I have no idea what happened. But anyway,
I love that it involves social media. And I love, if Netflix, if you're listening, this is an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. This is a full-on. Well, wait, if you said you used it a year ago, maybe it was from that time.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. But you know, it just created a lot of weirdness, because I'm like, look, I did not touch your and we have a very trusting friendship. Like, I had the passcode to, we did. I had the passcode to his apartment. Like, I could just come in like whenever we were, you know, practically like Kramer, but I'm like, I didn't touch your computer. And it didn't even make sense, because it's like, if I was doing something nefarious, I would have gone on his computer and gone into like his account. Like, why would I go? Like, I had my MacBook was there.
This feels very Heather Dubrow calling the paparazzi and Gina and Kate. This feels very that coded right now. So I mean, listen, it's hard to imagine why your Instagram would be up there without you doing it. That's really just hard for me. And
I know, because that's the thing, is like, I can't even be mad at him, because it's like, well, of course you would think that, because that would be the logical conclusion. But it's like, dude, I would literally, like, if I used it and then I would go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I would have just I have no idea, but that happened. Then another friend that I have here, we're fine as well, but we had like
Please say it's the same thing. Please say he says I'm looking at Instagram on his computer. Yeah.
No, I had another thing which I didn't want to get into that, but and then I was just like, oh my God, I'm like all these super solid friendships that I thought that I had here and now shaky. And now I'm getting paranoid about, before I moved to LA, everyone's telling me, you can't make real friends in LA. Like it's impossible. No one there is genuine. And now all these like very genuine friends that I had, we've had like weird things going on. So the point of that story is, yes, I would love to hang out with you because soon I'm going to be with no friends if I keep hacking their computers.
Yeah, dude. You can use my laptop. It'll be totally. You can
Thank you.
You can even you're more than you can use Instagram anytime on my laptop. Okay, so we've caught up now with everything going on kind of in the personal world, except that we'll talk a little bit about a project you might be doing that I got really excited about when you told me. But I did want to talk about where you're at in terms of reality television, in your opinion, just to give the audience a taste, is Jacques, and a lot of you guys out there will probably agree with him. Jacques loves Lisa Rinna, thought she was an amazing character on the show. And I didn't talk to I don't know if I talked to you on the last season she was on, but you really went to bat for her. And so did Zach Peters, now that I'm thinking about it. And I just thought she became a caricature of herself by that last season where it was infuriating. Do you still feel the same way about Lisa Rinna?
Oh yeah, no one can prove anything that she's never done anything wrong. Like clearly everything she said about Kathy Hilton was 100% the truth. The people watching the show are not going by what is factual and what's not. They're going by who I personally like, whereas they like Kathy Hilton because she comes in and goes, oh, hunky-dory, and everyone thinks that's like the funniest thing they've ever heard. Whereas Lisa Rinna's doing the heavy lifting, stirring up the drama, making the show happen, asking the tough questions. And we all know that Kathy Hilton did that. If anyone watched Paris in Love season 2, Kathy Hilton is like just a monster. Yeah. And,
well, it was good talking to you, Jacques. Hang tight in LA, man. Really proud. No. Okay. I will say, but I do agree with you on that. I love the Paris Hilton season 2 reality show. That was batshit. Like I was shocked that Kathy Hilton allowed herself to be filmed. There was one part where Paris Hilton's book got released, you guys, and Kathy wanted to reach out to the ghostwriter to tell her to like take out certain passages, and Paris didn't even. Paris was so scared to even tell her mom she had a baby, like that she has kids. She revealed the kid after she had the kid. Like she was like, here, you're a grandma, because she was scared of Kathy Hilton interfering in her life.
Yes, and that's the Kathy Hilton that Lisa Rinna knew and was trying to bring out. And obviously it was driving Lisa Rinna insane because she was like, wow, everyone is here with their hunky-dory merchandise and they don't really see what this woman is actually like.
Well, okay, wait. A little bit.
Wait. Let's just cut to the chase.
Name
them. What was Lisa Rinna ever wrong about or lied about, with the exception of when she said that she didn't say that Kim Richards was close to death, but then like 3 episodes later she admitted it in front of her and she's like, you know what, I did say it, and she confessed in front of the whole group. What else has she been wrong about?
Okay.
Nothing.
It's not necessarily, well, here, okay. You said that she was carrying the show on her shoulders and stuff, and she was making all the moves, making stuff happen. My thing is, some people just do that naturally. When Lisa Rinna was on the show earlier, she would do that naturally. By the end of her run, she became so like, it was like somebody on steroids. Like she was like foaming at the mouth trying to make scenes happen. And it would be like, that's why that Kathy Hilton stuff was kind of insane, because it wasn't her place. It wouldn't have been a storyline. And the way she kind of butted in there and like went insane, not only on Kathy, but on Sutton too, where I felt with Sutton, it's very Tamra coded as well, where it just feels like a bully. Lisa became a bully in that last season. And the thing is, like, I'm glad that Kathy like went toe to toe with her, because Lisa got power hungry. She thought this was her show. Whatever she says could go. And the way she would plot with her and Erica Jane, like, yeah, Lisa, let's go. And they would just sit there and laugh like little evil minions. It's not about, I do agree with you that it is about who you like sometimes, but this show isn't about honesty. This show has never been about who's telling the most truth, because Lisa has some hard truths she's never said about herself.
What are those?
No one.
Let's
talk about the husband. No. Okay. And the other thing that she's done wrong, and thank God she didn't come back for another season because it would have been brought out. And this is the same shit Teresa and Jen have been accused of as well, is she was getting it. Like, I know for a fact she was getting in DMs with other like podcasters, content creators, telling them to post certain things, sending them in certain directions. I mean, you and me both know people that she has done that with. And
Yes,
I
no,
think
I
that
agree
is
that she's
fighting
been-
completely unfairly.
I agree she's been in the DMs, but I don't think it's anything comparable to what Jen, Aiden, and Teresa were doing, which was
No, you're
literally
right.
let's time thing. Yeah, that was like sickening,
Wait.
crazy.
So we can agree that Teresa and Jen they did that and that was wrong.
Oh, they're foul. They're awful. Like, they are just beyond. And I just want to add in as well that so I've kind of taken a step back from the podcasting, from the Housewives stuff. And one reason is that, with my job and then getting to know these people and just knowing how the sausage is made, I don't like the toxicity from the fandom. I didn't like contributing to it because it becomes so negative. And it's like, look, people are just trying to make a show and entertain.
Yeah.
And
at the end of the day, the production just wants to get home to their families too. Like,
yes.
It's like with Sandoval, like I say this nonstop, is that everybody's like, they knew, and oh my God, and this and this. And it's like, guys, at the end of the day, they're trying not to do a 12-hour day to go overtime. They're trying to clock out at a certain point, and we're sometimes more into it. But I will say it's a two-way street because sometimes it's encouraged by these housewives. And I feel like the rise of social media has definitely, I don't know what it's added to the show except for publicity, but it's taken away a certain magic to it as well.
No, it's awful. I mean, it's so toxic and negative and dark and gross. But I just my point with that is I've really tried, but the one person that I can't turn the other cheek with is like Teresa and Louis and stuff. I'm like, they are the absolute worst. Like, I'm trying to give everyone grace.
I thought you were going to be so pro Teresa because I was going to ask you about, did you watch this season of Jersey?
Yes, and I loved it. It was like Game of Thrones from the beginning. It was just like no one was friends and everyone was just fighting for their little, like, their spot. I thought it was so fascinating.
That's insane. See, I thought it was okay, but to me, it was overwhelmingly toxic. And it feels like Teresa and Jen at times were in a different show about, we talk about that concept of it's not about what you can share on the show anymore. It's about what you can hide from the show. And that's what it felt like with Teresa.
No, for sure. My thing was like, I wasn't watching it like it's a real show about a group of interconnected people. I was literally watching it as like Game of Thrones. And I feel the same with Orange County Housewives now, where I watch that more as Survivor. I always call it Survivor Newport Beach because it's very strategic.
Tamra thinks she's in a reality competition series. Tamra thinks like she's on Traitors, and Shannon, on the other hand, thinks she's in a real life like she thinks this is a documentary, and Tamra thinks this is a reality competition series. And that's where you get, like, at the end of the day, I think Tamra leaves it at the door. Like, she can like go home to Eddie and whatever her life is and kind of be happy. But I think Shannon, she lives it 24/7. She can't not.
I don't know I think Shannon is very strategic as well. And I've never been a Shannon fan, like with the victim complex. And I do think she's had a drinking problem and diva behavior and all of this stuff. And I really was going into this season not team Shannon. But I have to admit, like, all the interviews that I've watched with her and how, like, because at first on the show, I'm like, she's not taking responsibility. Like, this is fake. And as I've kept watching, I'm like, no, I actually really think there's been a change in her. And I think that I think hitting rock bottom with the heartbreak of the breakup, and then maybe also
hitting the wall of the house as well.
Yes, drive the DUI, just everything at once. The kids going off to college, thinking that maybe my time on Housewives is coming up.
It's a lot,
coming to an end. I think there has been a change in her, so I've had to take her side with this, and I get the hate for Tamra this season, but the thing with that as well is like, someone has to play the role of being adversarial to Shannon. Someone has to ask those questions. Someone has to say, you need to go to rehab. Someone has to do it.
Yeah, she's a necessary evil. That's what I keep saying in the recaps. But at the same time, she still manages to push it a little further than she needs to, I think. Like, I was watching tonight's episode right before I talked to you, and I know you haven't gotten a chance to watch it, but just the stuff she says and the glee she gets from it. There's a thing about being adversarial, but there's also a thing about, like, it's not done with any kind of panache or class. It's done in this trashy way of like, that's what a drinker alcoholic would say. That's what it would like. And I'm like, dude, chill, because her interrupting last week at Gina's dinner interfered with the conversation that Shannon and Alexis Bellino or Lexi could have had. Like, she already upset Shannon so much that we weren't able to see them interact.
Yeah, look, that's a good point as far as we want to see more interaction between Shannon and Alexis. But I'm sorry, I thought that was so fucking funny when Tamra was like, "Is that before you have a drink, or before or after you have a drink?" And like, I was just, I'm sorry, this is so funny. Like, this is brutal, and I get the hate, but I'm just, imagine how frustrating it would be though if Tamra was not there and then no one was holding Shannon's feet to the fire. And I always look at it this way.
We've seen that 3 seasons ago. I mean, like before Tamra came back, we were in a couple season drought of things not really happening. And of course we had COVID to deal with, but it was, which by the way, do you know who popped back up in tonight's episode is Elizabeth Vargas.
Love Elizabeth Vargas, obsessed with her. She and I still DM. Yes, we follow each other. I never thought she should have been fired. I am obsessed with her, and I just love that she's made a little cameo on the show again. I'm very excited to watch it.
You know, Gina is at the top of the real estate game right now, and Elizabeth Vargas listed her home with Gina for like $9 million, you guys. So this is like a big get for Gina. Like, this is really a big listing. You guys know I'm going to be recapping the entire OC on Saturday. So I will rant and rave then about that more. But it was really funny to see Elizabeth Vargas because it brought back the COVID memories of that season of her sharing some insane shit. And then after she left, there was that one thing where there was like a hostage situation in her place. Remember?
Yes, she has a wild life, and people that have followed me for years know my OC season 15 take, so I won't, go on and on about it. But I do think that was an underrated season. I also think people should have given it more grace because it was the one most impacted by COVID, and I think it did have a really strong cast. And I just loved all the craziness with like Bronwyn and Elizabeth. And I know that when they hired Elizabeth from behind the scenes, that because of her divorce with her crazy rich whatever Austrian husband, wherever he was from, she couldn't talk about him until it was finalized. So there was a lot of like, I think they should have brought a lot of those. I mean, they should have brought Kelly, Bronwyn, and Elizabeth back, frankly.
And wasn't that the season with Noella too?
No, Noella came after.
That was the next season. That was the next season.
Yeah. And then they brought they got rid of Kelly Dodd. Then they brought Heather Dubrow back. And then that season was a little, And then when they brought Tamra back, it was like, okay. Because Heather Dubrow is a fantastic housewife. Tamra is great. Like, I think they have a really strong cast. And I'm such a
Why do you think everybody's scared of Heather Dubrow?
I don't think they are scared of Heather Dubrow. I thought it was weird that they were making this big deal, right, about Katie confronting Heather, and they're like, "Oh, you better sleep with one eye open." I'm like,
exactly.
The last season was a gang up on Heather. The whole season was you guys were just bashing and attacking Heather Dubrow all season. So I don't think anyone's really scared of her. But
I got really confused, and then I got confused when Tamra like has this really like it's a gift almost that everybody forgets her behavior every season, because even this season, a couple weeks ago, she was like, Katie, you have information about Heather and the paparazzi? Oh my God, I love you. You got to show that, girl. And then when shit goes down, Tamra's like, oh my God, what happened? What are you crazy? Katie, why did you do that? Like, it's so, like Gina gets blamed for it. Like, Tamra always escapes any kind of persecution or magnifying glass. And at this point, I've got to say hats off, because I've just never seen somebody have that kind of power. Like, Lisa Rinna reminds me a lot of Tamra, but I felt Lisa Rinna got kooky at the end. Like, Tamra's smarter in terms of gameplay than any of those other housewives on OC right now.
I think Tamra's more strategic than Lisa Rinna is. I actually think Lisa Rinna is naturally a truth teller and was just getting very I think, the Beverly Hills fandom in particular is so toxic, not to like just go back to Lisa Rinna constantly, but the fandoms are very toxic, but the Beverly Hills one is like next level. And I think having that level of hate at you constantly, especially if you know that you're kind of like right about everything and you're like, I'm the most hated person, I'm literally right about all this stuff. And, I've got Garcelle calling me a racist, and, Kathy saying that I lied when I literally didn't, and, XYZ. I think that's what weighed on her more. And, you know, even me from when I was doing podcasting, like it's really hard to deal with hate and, you know,
Oh
trolls and
God.
stuff. And imagine it on the level of a Beverly Hills housewife.
I've been talking about that a lot recently, and I was talking about it because the Love Island cast. I don't know if you watch Love Island USA, but you know they're locked away for 6 weeks in Fiji. They come out, they realize the show's really popular. One guy has like a sex video leaked. Like this is kind of shit that like you know. And if you go and study like Love Island UK, there's been a couple of you know suicides. Trigger warning from Love Island UK. And you know it really is got to be scary to have all of a sudden over 1 million people have really strong opinions, and now everybody is a critic. Everybody's a pop culture commentator. You go on TikTok. I mean, I've seen nothing but Blake Lively's a fucking bitch today, like story after story. And I got to imagine, like, I get now I get a fair share of like, you know, not great comments either. And it hurts. Like, I don't know. I don't think I would ever be able to handle fame in any sense.
No, and like one thing in Australia that they do, so Married at First Sight is the biggest reality show there, and they actually like the network takes over the contestants' Instagram accounts, doesn't give them control of it until like 3 months after the show is finished airing. And I think that is the health. Yeah. And I mean, I know that one reason you go on a show is because you want to build that social media following and want that clout. But I just think networks should pay the talent more and then take over their social media, because I think it's too much. And you know, with me putting my podcast on pause, and I'm not sure if I'm going to bring it back or not. I did a recording with a friend and we were sort of trying something of like, maybe I'll come back and do something. But me taking that step back, I have found it so healthy for my mental health. And even on my Instagram stories, you can't even reply to my Instagram stories unless I follow you. And I'm like, I just got to a point where even if it was like positive, like even if people are saying positive things, I'm like, this is too much. And I know that you would get this because you know, your podcast is really successful. You have a very big Instagram following. You interact a lot with your followers. And I felt like for me, it wasn't healthy seeing the negative or the positive and just being bombarded with so many people's opinions. It was too much noise. I couldn't handle it anymore. And ever since really taking a step back and like focusing on my like real life and moving here to the US and stuff, like I just feel, I can't even tell you how much better I feel mentally.
It is. I mean, I don't like, I don't really open 80% of my DMs. I've always been bad at that anyways, but like it really is because you never know when you're going to hit the bad one. And then if you hit a really good one, that's hard for me to take as well. Like I don't do well with compliments. Like it's like a weird mind thing, but also like nothing prepares you for a bunch of people having an opinion, especially when you started off just wanting to talk shit about reality TV with people. So those are the ones I love when I'm just like, oh, isn't that reality star crazy? And I can go, yeah, LOL. Like because that's what I started when I started all of this, that's what I was doing. And it was so helpful at the time. Like it really saved parts of my life. Like when I started all of this, but it is interesting because I just don't, it's hard to explain what I even do. I mean, like, it's hard to explain what we do. Like, I know we can't get into this, but, you know, I know TV production is something that you're very interested in and that you are potentially going to be doing. And he told me this idea that he has, you guys, and it's fantastic. And I mean, that's something that's like, oh, you can use all of this knowledge and all of these opinions, and you can put it directly into a show that we would all want to see.
Yeah, that's what another thing that's been a really big revelation for me is that I always thought that, like, you know, I wanted to be in front of the camera, right? Because I used to be a blogger, like back in the day, like literally when I was like 20, and I had like a big following online. And then when I sort of stepped away from that, for several, no, it was a music blog, and it totally had a following and everything. And I got burned out on it. I stepped away, and then before I did the podcasting, I was like, God, I really miss like having a following and having an audience and having a voice. And then I got into podcasting for years, and I thought that's what I wanted. And then I think just the pressures of performing and how hard it is, and feedback from everyone and just all of that stuff, and then getting to experience doing stuff behind the scenes. Like, so I work for Daily Mail and I'm a reporter for them, and I get all this time to like work on stories, and I'm really enjoying that. And then also, yeah, I've created a show. I can't say kind of who it's with or anything, but like we have a development deal and amazing like producers, and you'll all hear about it eventually. And we're actually,
yeah, you guys, this is the show I would cover on this show. Like, and there's people involved that are real. I mean, it's really kind of neat,
It's legit people, and I've literally been working on it for like the past year. I cast it and created it, and then have developed it with this amazing team. And I'm like, wow, being behind the scenes is so fucking great, because you still get to be totally creative and do this like stuff in this reality world. But it's like, I don't have to deal with like the opinions of strangers. I don't have to like just even stress myself out. Cause I think you and I were sort of both perfectionists, where like we'll put out a product and then we're like, oh my God, it wasn't good enough. Or I wish I had said something.
Every day.
And you beat yourself up over it. And again, I'm like a Virgo. I'm very critical of myself. I'm a perfectionist. And now I'm kind of in a space where I'm feeling like maybe I want to be a behind the scenes person. I mean, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, but Jacques, wait till you have to start dealing with the cast. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine the people, like I always think about Vanderpump Rules, because I went back and I'm watching the first season of it again, and nobody would have thought that it would have gone on 11 seasons. And some of the people that worked on that first season are still there 11 seasons in, and they've formed friendships, relationships, all of these things. And you've just got to imagine how many heart-to-hearts these production people have had to have with Tom Sandoval this past year. It must have added so much stress to their jobs on top of the fandom, the insanity.
It's like that, but I will say with my cast that I've been working with, we're getting ready to shoot some stuff, and then hopefully we'll be greenlit. I'm not sure if we're greenlit for a full season yet, but sorry, I just got a text. I just got distracted. But I deal with them about things, and I see everybody in a different light, because some people I see and I'm like, God, this person's been saying a lot, and they're probably gonna get it when we start filming. But I see everybody as a fully fleshed person. I don't see them as just like a caricature. And it's like, no one's a bad person. It's just some people can make bad choices, or it's like, wow, this person's really opinionated, so that could get them in trouble. But they're also, so I don't know, I'm just looking at reality stars completely differently. And you know what? Another thing about working behind the scenes and being in LA, I've got friends that are, podcasters and influencers and on, friends with the Housewives and stuff like that. And you still, if you're working in the industry, you still get all the fun perks of like, you still get invited to the parties, and you still get to like hang out with, the housewife and get all the tea, and like you get all that fun stuff, and you can still maybe get into a good restaurant or whatever, but you don't have to deal with the whole like being the face of it and just the public stuff and the pressure of it.
I will say, well, I agree with you, and there's like some parts of it I disagree with, because I feel like some of that stuff gets old really quick too. Is that like when you start seeing how the sausage is made, it's never as like, it kind of takes that initial magic of watching the actual product, especially with Vanderpump, it was like, oh man, and it was really wild to like kind of know some of those people a little bit and kind of see what they were going through behind the scenes. And then to like watch the show and go, I understand exactly why the audience doesn't like you right now. But then to see the other side of it and go, well, but I do know, I don't know. It really was weird. And I've never really cared about the party aspect and, being invited here or there. Like I just get nervous with that shit. But I wonder for you as a producer, how it'll be to, and you said it kind of perfectly, is that like all of these people are good people. They might show things in a different way. You have to really kind of love the entire cast. Like when Alex Baskin talks about Vanderpump Rules, he always treats every character with a great amount of respect, even if the audience hates them at the time. Even how he spoke about Raquel or Rachel in this last season, he would always choose his words very carefully in interviews, and he never just like let it rip. And I think that's where I would have a hard time as a producer, because I'd be like, you suck.
Well, I think it's different when you get to know, like I've been friends with, there was someone that I became friends with on a recent big hit Bravo show, and they really went through it, but I knew their side of it. So I think you just see people as like fully fleshed out. Nobody is one thing. And I do miss watching the shows when I was more naive and I kind of just followed the general storyline that the whole audience does. And now I just watch the show so differently. I like everybody. Like on OC this season, you know, I said that I started off maybe not liking Shannon, but even Shannon I like now, and I feel bad for her. It's like I like all of them, and it's just I just appreciate people that can make good television. Now there are certain levels I think where people go too low, like Teresa. I mean, Louis I think is just completely dangerous, and just I mean, I don't want to say too much because he's so scary, but
yeah, because he's listening. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, he probably is. I think he monitors everything that's said, and I know that he's another one that gets into people's DMs and tries to control narratives and stuff. And I think the level that they've gone is just like awful. I've always been outspoken against Garcelle. I feel like she pulls the race card on Beverly Hills to just floor her opponents on the show so they can't say anything. So anyone that has anything to say against her, suddenly they're a Karen or it's a microaggression. I think that's a really low thing to do. But in general, now I'm watching the shows and I'm just like, good for you for making a good fucking show. Like I watched The Valley last season. I didn't hate.
I was gonna ask you about The Valley. Yeah, but I will say I'll push back on the Garcelle a little thing. I understand what you're saying, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry if Dorit's gonna keep sticking her foot in her mouth every time. Like there is a certain way of like behaving and interacting with somebody that I think sometimes it's never like it hasn't. Like I was watching the first season of Vanderpump Rules today. I'm at episode 5, and there's this whole conversation that could never be had today where Stassi calls somebody a ghetto bitch. And Lisa's like, yes, it's not a ghetto bitch. And they keep saying ghetto bitch over and over again. And I was like, holy shit, 2013. It was just 11 years ago, but what a different time. But we are in a different time. And sometimes it probably sucks for Garcelle to have to be the person to point that out. I understand that can be annoying for people sometimes, but I also think Garcelle has been an actually decent addition. I'm pissed that Crystal's not there. Yes,
I was a Crystal fan. I was definitely a Crystal fan the whole time. I think her first season was her strongest. I think the second season wasn't great. I think the third season was better. I just think that she maybe needed to speak her truth a bit more. But I was disappointed to see her go, and I was hoping that she would come back and call some people out. But on Doute, like I can't even remember what Doute said, but she certainly wasn't saying you're a ghetto bitch to anybody. I mean, the thing is that with Garcelle, it's like, no one is racist until they have an issue with something Garcelle has done, and then suddenly they're a Karen and it's a microaggression. So there seems to be a pattern. I mean, she didn't pay for that charity thing. That's a micro. You wouldn't have said that to a. It's like, okay. And then it's like, again, the next season, then again, it's like, okay, girl. And I believe that the whole cast feel that way, and they know that. I believe the producers know that and feel that way. I believe that one of the reasons that they are bringing more diversity onto the show, first with Anna Marie last year and now the new girl Bazoma, is because
you must have loved Anna Marie.
Oh yeah, I thought
that's probably right up your alley. That was probably right up your alley, Jacques. Yeah,
I was like, go girl. Yeah, I loved when she came out.
Oh my god!
And I think that the producers are trying to balance it out so one cast member isn't going to be able to sort of wield that card over everybody else. That is that's how I feel.
I'm really curious about Doute's season this season though, because of everything with PK. Like this is a really big season for Doute because I feel like she's been hanging on by like a thread for these last 2 seasons a little bit because, you know, I will say this. Erica Jane, I never thought I would say it, had a decent season last season. I said, listen, I mean, like, good on her. I mean, she, like, I don't know what we're celebrating, but like, yeah, she hung in there. She played ball. I mean, like it, you know, sometimes, you know, she still gets in the weeds a little bit, but like she persevered through really like an insane storm. So it'll be curious to see if she can build on that this season. But Doute, I really hope she comes correct in terms of like honesty, what's actually going on with PK. What did you think of, Kyle and whatever is happening with her marriage and Morgan Wade?
I have like no opinion on it. Although who was it? I think Lisa Vanderpump, who I actually can't stand, but she made a good point. I'm team Kyle, but I think she said that, you know, if you don't confirm something, that's what keeps the speculation going. And she said that Kyle was being strategic in not confirming it. And I think that is probably true. And I think it's totally worked for Kyle. But I think we've also seen a different Kyle. I think Kyle's definitely in a different place. Like the working out, the fitness, she's way more outspoken. I don't think she's as scared of what the audience thinks. I think before she really was beholden a lot more to the audience. And now I think she's just like, I'm fucking living my truth and I don't care. And I really like seeing that side of her. I thought Doute actually had a good season last season because she was being more
Jesus, Jacques, come on, man.
She was being more outspoken and yeah, I think she was getting into it more. And I think with Erica, I think they gave her last season off because she was the storyline, like the punching bag for about 3 seasons in a row in a level
she did that. She helped that along. I mean, she didn't really do a lot to like help herself.
Let's not rehash all that, but Team Erica over here, Team Erica and Rinna and Doute. But, I think Erica is going to have to bring it this season coming up because I think they'll let you have 1 season off where you kick back if you've worked really hard, but I don't think you could do it twice in a row. So Erica's going to have to speak up. And yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes.
Well, you said that something interesting a second ago about, like, because we do have all this social media involved now, and it's very different from when the Housewives started, and it really changes how you view the show. Like, if you're working on a show, it like, you even said like you'll watch the show, but then some of these people and you know their truth, all of these things, and it makes it for this weird 360-degree viewing experience that I never think Bravo has had a handle on because we're watching a whole different show that they're not monetizing online. Like we watch it every day, even after Vanderpump Rules. We had to like keep listening to Lala's podcast, Scheana's podcast, Jacques and Brittany's podcast, Sandoval's podcast, all of this stuff that kept adding information when they're not even filming this stuff. Like it's like money going out the window.
I think Bravo likes it because it just keeps, people have short attention spans now and there's so many new shows and it's so competitive. So I think that the idea behind allowing all of this is just to keep people, it's like people are on crack. They don't want to wean people off this. They want people to keep combing through every single podcast and stuff. But do I think it affects the quality of the shows? Absolutely. I think BravoCon is a really bad idea because I don't think that you should be bringing the talent that close with the audience. I just think it breaks a certain barrier.
The zoo experience. Yeah.
Yes. I just don't. I think it's really bad for the shows in general. I don't like all the podcasting. I hate when they fight on Twitter, like when the episode is airing.
I know.
Yeah, I think
sometimes it also doesn't seem real. Like this week we had a fight on Dubai between Sarah. Like we had a couple like fight on Dubai, and we already are getting fights on Roni between Uba and Bryn. And part of me just kind of is suspicious that it feels like we're trying to get picked up for a 3rd season, or we're trying to get people excited about the 2nd season. And sometimes I've been in this game too long where I'm very suspect of a lot. I'm like not conspiratorial, but I'm suspect because it feels like they want us to take that bait.
Oh, totally. I mean, some of those Twitter fights are so it's like embarrassing. I'm like, I mute the hashtags now because I'm like, I don't want to see this. Like, I mute so many of the fan accounts. I'm like, I don't want to look at your weird theories and then see this person commented that. I wish they would take it all away. And I think that, I don't know, like, Bravo is such a mixed bag. I haven't tossed it away yet because I am very entertained by OC. Like I said, I love New Jersey for the reasons that probably people hated it. Again, I watched it as a Game of Thrones type of spectacle, but then there's other shows like I think Dubai is appalling. And I think the Roni reboot is maybe the worst show that's ever aired in the history of Bravo.
How dare you, Jacques? How dare you?
So bad. I call it a show about nothing, like Seinfeld, but Seinfeld was actually funny, but it's truly a show about nothing.
What if they did the Seinfeld music with New York? Like, bow, ba-dum, bow, 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 bow.
They should. I think that's awful. But then the Valley came out. The Valley was amazing. I love Vanderpump Rules. I mean, Vanderpump Rules only had that one bad season, which was
no, they had 2. Season 8, we had Dog the Lizard season when they did the funeral for Schwartz's pet lizard, and then you had the COVID season, which was like so it was like 8 and 9.
Yeah, the COVID season was really bad. That's true. The season where they brought the new people in, Well, I don't think it was the worst, but it certainly wasn't up to the level that, you know, that show usually is at. But, you know, I still love that. But now I'm getting into like I am obsessed with Selling the OC on Netflix. That is one of my favorites.
I do. I love Selling the. I love Alex Hall and all of those.
Oh my God,
people.
Alex Hall is a fucking superstar. Like
I like Selling the OC more than Selling Sunset. I know that's probably sacrilegious to say, but it's just a better storyline.
It's way better. It is amazing. It's also, I think Selling the OC is the most right-wing show on television. Like, it looks like a Republican fantasy land, you know, and I think Alex Hall is like one of the best villains. Like I actually talked to Alex Hall and I had told her recently, like, you got to get it like a fucking big agent because you need to be on The Traitors. You need to be on House of Villains. Like you should be on all these shows.
I feel like they don't do enough advertising for Selling the OC specifically. They feel like they save it all for Selling Sunset, which is coming back in a couple of weeks. And I find it disappointing because I've been way more into that storyline in the OC than I ever was on Selling Sunset. It's like the same handbook. It's like overpowering music, beautiful lighting. So you almost think you're watching like something Stanley Kubrick made. You're like, holy shit. And then you're left completely empty. But with the OC, they had these kind of like interesting storylines that I got into.
Yeah, and the OC is kind of brilliant, Selling the OC, because one, it does feel a lot more real than Selling Sunset. But then when they do stuff that's totally fake, it's so funny. Like when they dropped in that random chick from Nashville, or what, you know, the southern one.
Didn't even have a real estate degree. She's like, and the Oppenheimer, he's like, can you do this? She's like, of course I can. I'll work my ass off. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like Gina from Real Housewives of Orange County would be better at the Oppenheim group. They're like, are you Oppenheim material? I'm like, no, she doesn't have a fucking real estate license. She can't do this job.
It's so ridiculous, but it's so funny. And I actually, I remember a few years ago, Heidi Montag was trying to get a real estate license. And I don't know if she got it or not, but I texted Spencer the other day and I was like, hey, I heard that Selling the OC season 4 is casting. I'm like, did Heidi ever get that real estate license? Because maybe you should put her up for that. Because if that other random girl,
I love Spencer.
He's the best.
Yeah. I
love the Hulu. Sorry, I just want to say it as well. No, Selling the OC, but I love all the Hulu shows now. I don't watch Kardashians. I know you're the Kardashian.
I hated this season. I thought it was really a sad display of reality TV. Like it could have been every season. I'm like, you could have the best reality TV series if you wanted to, but they just share just very minimal, and it's become this Make-A-Wish Foundation, and it's only Kim Kardashian receiving. Like we just got to see all these amazing things happen, and I think we're just kind of over that as a society a little bit.
Yeah, well, what I love, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but I got the screeners for that new show, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Oh, dude, I want those screeners so bad. It comes out in September, and it's supposed to be awesome. Is it good?
It is so fucking good. Like when it's blowing the Housewives out the water. It is amazing. Like the cast is incredible. It does have kind of the sort of, you know, Salt Lake City Housewives, like Mormon background, but it's like every single character has that, and some are more devout than others. But then you've got this swinging scandal with the main girl was in this,
which is where it all started a couple years ago, right?
Yes. And then you have this other element where they're all in like a content house called Mum Talk, essentially, right? Where they're all these Utah TikTok, they all look the same, by the way. They look identical. And they're in this Mum Talk TikTok house. So then there's this like rivalry of like, who's the queen of Mum Talk? Like, who's the leader of Mum Talk? Who has the most followers? And they get into this like niche TikTok drama of like, well, so-and-so made us look bad and we lost brand deals. So they have all of that. Then they have all the people with their individual like marriage issues that they're putting out there. Like this show has everything. And I really think this is going to be like a big kind of, I think it's going to be like a big player. Like if people watch this,
I reached out to Betches and I was like, can I get in it? I want to interview somebody from this show because it just looked amazing. Like I even just saw like a print ad and I was like, oh, I'm so into this already. So I hope it's good.
I can tell you who to interview, but do you want to interview the villain? Like, do you want to interview the Alex Hall of Mom Talk, or do you want to interview the nice, funny one?
I think I would probably want to start with the villain, I think, and then go to the nice one. Yeah.
The villain on that is so great. Like, yeah, that's amazing. And then I'm also sucked into, and I can't believe it, is the Dance Moms reboot on Hulu. Dance Moms: A New Era.
I had Glow on last week. I had
did you?
I had Glow Hampton on the show last week. I watched the first 5 episodes before it came out, and I didn't watch the initial iteration of Dance Moms with Abby Lee Miller. I've only seen clips. So I was unprepared for the intensity of that show. And then the second episode, I told you the fact that they bring like like a medium in there, and then they start talking about death with these like we're talking like 7-year-old girls, and like the one has to reveal her brother died, and like the mom didn't tell anybody. Like, and then the dances, you guys, are all like themed dances. The one girl's like spitting like bile out of her mouth. It is insane.
Yeah, they do this. So they bring in a medium, and Miss Glow like sits a little, like literally like 7-year-old sits them down. She's like, "Do you know what a stillborn is? Well, that's when you have a baby and it died. The kids are there crying, and then like we're gonna try and the medium's there talking to the kids. So has anyone lost anyone? Because I'm seeing someone that died in a car accident and had head trauma, and then they have to do a dance where they're contacting the other side, and then like an episode later they have to do another dance where the 8-year-old who loves her teddy bear, she has to do a dance called Time to Grow Up, and at the end of the dance her teddy bear has to be confiscated." And her mom's crying, going, "Oh, I have to I have to do this or she won't become a professional dancer."
They open up with the trail. I told Glow this. I haven't gotten to this episode yet, but I think it's the final episode where the one girl's dressed up like Jean-Benet Ramsey.
I didn't know that yet because I'm not to the end yet.
The one girl is dressed like, and I was like, what the hell? And then she told me that one of the storylines involves where she has to teach the kids about Lorena Bobbitt.
It's so good. I think it's really good. I've watched some of the original. I think I watched like the first 2 seasons, and I watched the YouTube clips. I will say that the cast of the original, it's like you can't top them. Like the mums on it are like legendary, and Abby Lee Miller is actually one of the top. Yeah, she's one of the top reality stars ever. And like, if you're like that OG Dance Moms super fan, this one might not feel as good. But if you just watch it as like its own show and you don't hold it to the original, it's really fucking good. And it kind of gets better with each episode. I love it.
Yeah.
I love Glow. How was Glow? Did you like her?
Oh, she was really nice. I was kind of nervous to talk to her because, she's a little intense with the girls, and she was like, "Oh, no, I'm great." And then I asked her if she would do Dancing with the Stars because that's ABC and Hulu. And she was like, "You know what? I would. I have to lose weight, but I think I would." And I was like, great. Like, because, I think this will get a second season. They seem like they put some money into this thing. And I just think the little girls, I mean, sometimes the little girls themselves, like, I don't even really care that much about the moms sometimes because the little girls and what they're going through. I mean, I like it when they're dealing with their moms, but the moms fighting with themselves, I don't really care that much about. But the interaction with the girls and the moms and the girls with each other and the teacher, I love it.
Oh, 100%. Because the thing is that when the mums are fighting, it feels kind of scripted. That's like, okay, you've just got to fight like they did on the original Dance Moms here. Get into a fight while you're waiting for the show to start, for the the dance rehearsal. But when the little girls are like being bitchy to each other or having like, that's real. And the little girls on this are like quite characters. I mean, that Ashley. That Ashlyn's out of
Ashlyn
control.
The one that Ashlyn needs to work on her fucking aerials? She can't get her aerial down. And I told Glow that I said, we got to get her into ballet. I mean, this is ridiculous, Ashlyn, but she's a star. So
she's the little blonde one that is just, I mean, she's so manipulative and she's like crying all the time. And I was reviewing Dance Moms a bit on my Patreon, and I actually was saying, I'm like, you know what? I feel really bad for this cast because it's one thing to have all of these crazy reality TV fans that come after the Real Housewives and you look old and you're horrible. But I'm like, these same kind of people are going to be like messaging 8-year-olds this same shit. You should kill yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. Oh, I mean, completely. There's not a handbook for reality television just gets more intense. And I don't even mean the shows themselves. The fandom gets more intense and our access to them gets like easier and easier, and we don't seem to be able to learn a lesson. Like I've never, like even me disliking Lisa Rinna, I never messaged Lisa Rinna and said like, go die, like I never would even do that. So it's really, hey, do you have a couple more, like, can we go a little longer?
Oh, I've got plenty of time. No, I'm
okay, cool. I'm having a great time. So Yeah, like that's the part that scares me too. Cause yeah, I just get like even when I get in too deep, like when I got in too deep with Sandoval, and then I was just like, what the I mean, my mom was dying at the time, so I think that was part of it as well. But like after that season ended, I was like, what the fuck did we just go through? I mean, I will say in my defense though, Sandoval still keeps doing the most idiotic shit I've ever, like, he cannot be wrangled in any sort of way. We haven't actually heard of, he hasn't done something stupid in like 2 weeks now. So that's like a record for him.
Yeah, you know what? I will say, I feel like I'm usually right about people and I usually stand by it, but I did kind of defend Tom at the start. And
Of course you did.
I think I defended them both because that's my knee jerk reaction. Because I mean, usually the fandom are kind of insane, but really as it went on, I'm like, okay, Team Ariana, I guess I'll admit it. And then actually, when everyone started turning on Ariana, I was like, fuck off. Like,
So
I actually
dumb.
defend. Yeah, I didn't. I mean, look, I didn't want to go with the mainstream crowd. I didn't want to be one of the normies, but I had to step in there and go. You know what?
I mean,
love
sometimes
Katie
sometimes it's like
Ariana.
an obvious fucking thing. It's an
Yes,
obvious
yes.
decision. I mean, like Ariana is not even giving us anything good villain wise to hate her. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
how can you do that?
Totally.
You're just saying that you hate somebody's success, you hate a female success, and the women that would still stick up for Tom, it's like you can still like Tom, but there's not really a lot to defend at this moment.
Yeah, and I do think with Ariana, and I don't know what decision she's making, but I do think she should leave Vanderpump for a while, or she should take a reduced role as like maybe she pops in with Katie as like Katie's friend or something. But I just think one, Ariana has so much going on. Like Love Island has become this blockbuster hit now.
Yeah.
But with her hosting it, so she's killing it there, and she was clearly the secret sauce to make that show take off in America, because that show has been huge in Australia and the UK and Europe for like years and years.
And
It's
this season
massive,
it didn't take off in the US until this season, and she had a
yeah.
lot to, like, I mean, that's the reason I watched the US one at first, was because of her, and then I got into it, and I think a lot of people like me did the same thing.
Yeah, and then you know, she's doing all this Broadway stuff, and I think she's doing something with the Rockettes, and I mean, she has so much
She did
on
Dancing with the
acting.
Stars. She did,
Yes.
I mean, everything.
And if I was her, I would be like, you know what, I will, because we want to watch Tom Sandoval's hot mess life. That's the thing. And I don't want to be watching Vanderpump Rules with like a Melissa Teresa thing where it's like no one's interacting. Like we can't keep doing that, because then it's just going to be like one of them has to go. And and I just think Ariana has way more going on for herself. And I kind of think it's a flex for her to be like, you know what,
Oh,
I'm actually not coming back.
could you imagine not having to deal with that mental anguish, because it was very real for her, and like you do all of these shows to get to the place where Ariana is right now, and not like, I mean, only a handful of reality stars were ever able to make it to this degree. Now, I don't want her to lose out on an easy paycheck or get forced out, because I feel like sometimes they're kind of like pushing her out a little bit of like, you know, we're going to keep doing these things, so you got to be okay with it. And Scheana and Lala are going to be mean to you a little bit. So if she has the opportunity to not like do that, and she has a lot of things lined up, I think it would be great, but I just don't want it. I want it to be her decision.
Yeah, I think what she should do is maybe take like a supporting role or a guest role and just like pop in a few times, because the fans will like to see her, and it would be fun to see her do a few scenes with Katie, pop in and out. And then it's also kind of like, you know, the door's sort of open, so then you can.
But then
come
how
back
do you
at a
keep
full-time-
Katie in? How do you keep Katie in that group? Because this friend group, I keep laughing at it, like it's not a friend group anymore. Like there's no reason. It's like they're in purgatory together, and they're shackled like barnacles to Sir. But like in no real life would these people ever hang out with each other anymore.
Yeah, look, I have no idea what they're doing with that show. They're obviously putting it on pause, which I think is healthy, to be pausing a lot of these shows and let people live their life and take a breather. And I actually really liked the last season of Vanderpump. I mean, people were so negative about it, and it was just like, dude, this is the reality of what they were going through. And the truth is, if they either went on pause, you'd be annoyed. They should have picked up cameras straight away and started filming. So if they had done that, you would have been annoyed. If they had tried to avoid the Sandoval thing, then you would have been like, we didn't get closure on that. So it was like they had to do the season in the way that they did it. And I still thought it was super entertaining. So I didn't have a problem with it, but I know the fans were like,
yeah, you couldn't win. They just had to get a
Yeah.
season out there into the world, so they can get going and figure out what they're doing. But you said you like the Valley, and that was another thing. And this is what I always harp on the audience about, is that this is where we suck, is that everybody was like, we don't need this show. Who asked for this show? This is stupid. And I was one of the only people that I was like, watch it first. And I loved it. The moment I saw it, I was like, oh, this actually works. And like you, I liked every one of those characters so much so that, and this is not like a slam on Scheana or Lala, that I felt it didn't need Scheana or Lala. But I'm really excited about season 2.
Yeah, the Valley was fantastic, and I always thought that it sounded like a really good idea. I was never a hater. I thought the hate, actually, I spoke about it at the time. I was like, when this show premieres, everyone's going to watch it, and they're all going to say that it's good, and that's exactly what happened. You know, people hate change, and with my podcast, I definitely did a lot of Bravo shows. So I got kind of put in that niche, even though I actually like shows of all different, I love, Bachelor franchise and all of the, I mean, I've fallen off it, but I've liked that stuff. And I would have so much trouble getting my audience to care about like Bachelor or Love is Blind or anything, right? Because they're like, we only watch Bravo. We only watch Bravo. And like Love Island, right, has been buzzing as like one of the hottest shows for years. Like people rave about it, and then people refuse to watch it. Then they put a Bravo person on, Ariana. Then everyone begrudgingly watches it. Oh my God, now it's my favorite show ever. I'm obsessed. It's like, it's so hard to people are so closed off to anything different. And then of course they end up liking it anyway. And that's exactly
that's what you have to
Valley.
get. I'm really happy with my audience a lot of the times because they'll go with me on these kind of little diversions, like with Love Island. I did get a couple of complaints, but it also brought in a lot of new people that had never heard the show before that just were looking for like Love Island content. So it was kind of interesting, but it's one of those things like they'll go to you for Vanderpump, they'll go to you for Beverly Hills, but it's hard when you're like, oh my God, I watch so many other things. Like I watched so many other things. And sometimes that's the nice thing about building an audience is that they'll go with you sometimes to like something that they would never watch or don't want to hear about. It's like when I listen to Stern and he'll have like some 70s rocker on that I could give a shit about, but I'll listen to it and I'll be like, oh, that was actually good. That was entertaining. I got into that.
Yeah, I think sometimes we have to force ourselves to be a little more open-minded with stuff. And again, back with the Valley, I was really shocked by the amount of hatred that Janet received. I thought it was so overblown and so toxic and like so vicious. And I actually had a feeling like I met them all at the premiere party before it came out. And by the way, I'm in love with Janet's husband, Jason. He is he's hot in person.
A really nice guy. Really nice guy.
He's so nice. Have you seen him in person?
Yeah.
He's so fucking hot, guys.
I tell down, people Jacques, Jesus.
Love him. But anyway, obsessed. And I kind of had a feeling that Janet was going to get it just because she kind of has she's similar to Katie in that she's just kind of like straightforward and she's not like as over the top as other people. And it just reads like, I think when women are like that, people just read it in a really negative way. And I find it very interesting what's happened with Katie's arc on the show because people just always just looked at her as like a nag and it's like
now she's a folk hero. Now Katie
people
kind of like
love her. She's like the most popular one there, her and Ariana. People adore her now. And it's like, I don't think Katie changed. I think this has always been Katie, but before she was with, Schwartz is adorable, but it was like, because Schwartz is so cute, it was so easy to be like, oh my God, he's so lovable. And Katie's this fucking hag at home and everyone was like vicious to her. And I just had a feeling that, Janet looks like someone that cracks the whip. And I'm like, they're going to react. But they reacted to a level that I just thought it was, horrific.
I think that's also like a byproduct of the end of Sandoval as well. And also I think with Scheana pulling some of the moves towards the end of last season, I think people like, oh, that's one of Sheena's friends. And then, listen, I will say that I think Janet is one of those people that likes information. I think she does like to go on Reddit. But I also don't think that's a bad thing. I think that makes a really interesting character. That makes somebody that you're like, ooh, I can't wait to see what she does next season. And I almost was kind of scared about the blowback because I was like, I hope this doesn't affect how she moves the next season. I want her to remain who she is. So I think you'll get a lot more mileage out of her being her without trying to appease the audience.
I've told her that personally. I said, girl, literally just you do you. And when you say about she's someone that loves information, well, Kristen Doute is someone that loves information too. And like, people kind of hated Kristen on Vanderpump for a
and now
really
she's
long.
on the she's on the other side of that where people love
And they
her.
love her. Yeah, they're like, oh my God, she's our favorite. And I'm like, Kristen hasn't changed. I feel like this is the same old Kristen that we always had, but it's just the way the way the audience is again. I just wish people could watch it more and just go, let's just watch people for being entertaining. And it's okay to like hate on people, and we all do, but I mean, let's just put it into perspective a bit and calm down.
Well, I mean, to your point a second ago too, I just like Sandoval was the same thing, the same way. We always appreciated Sandoval a lot more than Ariana because Ariana wasn't making bold moves and she wasn't doing like insane costumes and singing in a karaoke band. But we got through Sandoval, we got to see all of these strengths that Ariana did have, and that was what was really impressive and bonded the audience to her. So I think every character like will flip, like it's like some days you're a villain, some days you're a hero. What do you think about Jacques and Brittany this past season? And where do you think, I mean, this is like the moneymaker because allegedly he was in a mental health facility and, even though he was still posting on Instagram and there seems to be a lot of questions about, but like, listen, like Jacques has only changed like minusculely through the decade. Seems like he's still a very similar person.
I don't think fame is healthy for Jacques, for one. I just don't think it's something that I think when you have an ego like that and you are a narcissist, it's like giving someone a drug. Like even at the premiere party, they screened the first episode and like none of the cast like really cared that much. But the two thirstiest people was Zach, that gay guy who was just on the photo wall for literally like 8 hours straight. And Jacques, as soon as it started, he was glued to that screen. He had stars in his eyes looking at himself back on screen. And I just don't think it's healthy for him. And I really like Brittany. I think Brittany is a little bit of a shit stirrer and she gets away with it because she's sort of so cute. But I don't know. I interviewed Brittany.
Do you want to see Brittany? Do you want to see Brittany date?
Yeah, no, I do. And yeah, she's been with Jack since she was pretty young, like 24 or something. I don't know. Like, and yeah, I want to see her get out there. And I was always rooting for them as a couple. And I was never a hater of them. I thought they were both great TV. I never thought they should have been fired. I like them both. I think you and I argued about Jax back in the day, but I guess I'm.
Dude, I gotta tell you. I gotta tell you. Like, I've had a long, complicated relationship with Jacques, but I love watching him on screen. Like, there's something very magnetic, and the insanity and the being so hypocritical about oneself is always going to be entertaining to watch because it's like you can see immediately what moves he's making, when he's lying, when all of these things. Like, because we've watched him for so long, but it's like watching like when Michael Jordan came back to play basketball after taking a bunch of years off, you're like, damn, he's still got the moves. He's still lying like a pro. Wow.
Well, again, it's like the fans never know what they want because it was like, fire this person, fire that person, then they fire them, and then the show always suffers, and then they bring them back, and then they love them all again. And then after the Tamra thing was really interesting because Tamra, through her original OC run, was like the most hated house. Like, people hated her, and I was always like the Tamra super fan from like day one. I felt like I was literally the only Tamra fan on social media back in the day. Then they fired her. Everyone was like, great, we're so glad she got fired, celebrating. Then within like a year after she was fired, suddenly it was like she became the most loved housewife, and then they loved her on Girls Trip, and then they loved the 2T's podcast and stuff, and then they bring her back to OC, and then it's like, we hate her again, fire her. And it's like, okay, guys.
Oh, see, no, I even said this on the show. Like, I don't want anybody fired anymore. Like, I'm pretty, like, I think, Tamra's a necessary evil. There is something in it where I like getting upset every week. I have to recognize that feeling in myself as well of like, oh, you're a horrible friend. I love screaming that at a TV. And that's part of the excitement of sometimes watching these shows. I just feel like with Tamra, she can be a little more delicate. Like, you're good at this, like act like it, like, you can pull it back a little bit and still have as much power as you do.
What do you think of Emily? Because I fucking love Emily, and I always have.
Emily, and people always get surprised when I think Emily's one of like a dream interview for me. I want to interview her one day. I got to talk to her and Shane Simpson at BravoCon. And I've always really liked Emily. Emily this season, I just want her to have, I want her to have her moment. Like, I feel like Gina's having a couple moments this season and some interesting things. I want Emily to have that. And I know it's not going to come with her family because her and Shane are never going to split, but I think Emily's just, I really like her a lot. I believe in her. And I think tonight's episode, which you'll see, she has an interesting almost fight with Gina that I think will be good next week. But sometimes I get a little reticent about her like being too buddy with Tamra. But if it's good for the show and good for Emily, I'll dig it.
I think she's turning into a Tamra mini-me for sure this season. She's like the Tamra Junior. And I just think it's funny watching them go around causing chaos. Like, I feel like Emily doesn't take the show that seriously. I think she's what? Like, this is just a fucking job. Like, let me just call it and let me have a few tequilas and call someone out. And then she, in her spare time, she's like, and let me just hit the gym and get my, lower facelift and look fabulous and just have my normal life and then come to set and cause some chaos. And I think her confessionals are so funny. I love the whole cast.
Yeah, I like her a lot.
Great season.
I
need to ask you something, not to take over your podcast.
Yeah, no, please.
I want your, and I'm sorry to go back to Jersey again, but I want your Jersey predictions. What do you think they're going to do? What do you think they should do? Like, where are you with that?
I realize it's really hard because it's one of those things, people are so ingrained in their favorites that they really can't see past that. And I just feel like sometimes you got to call out stuff for like what it is. Like at this point, I think we're at a fork in the road where I don't think Teresa's able to do the work that she's usually able to do because of her relationship. And it's like causing a lot of weird tension within that group, and like the stuff of her and Jen Aiden reaching out. Like, I know Margaret reaches out like behind the scenes. I know all of that stuff, but they took it to such a level that it makes it feel so gross watching her, because for somebody that's like talking about the truth and stuff, it doesn't seem like she's ever able to take accountability, but she's given us so much. I think you have to like, I think Bravo's at a tough spot because they do really like Teresa, but I think you got to give her a spinoff or something and then keep going with the cast they have with a couple new additions. Like, that's what I would prefer to see, because I think there's still enough people in there that genuinely dislike each other in that smaller group. But Teresa is dynamic. It's just that we're never going to get the truth about her and Louis from her. Like they'll cut scenes out that seem dramatic between them. Or even keep Jen Aiden still, because she's able to get along with some of those other ladies when Teresa's not there. I don't know. Like, I hate to say that because people get upset at me, but I just think her time might have come to an end on this iteration. Like, I think she belongs on TV. I just don't know if this is the best place for her anymore.
Well, the Teresa fans are just beyond psychotic. I mean, I would say they're probably the worst fandom of any of the Housewives fans.
Well, just the ones on Twitter, just the ones on the casual Teresa fans are like, I've had great conversations with. It's the ones that like make it their entire personality, where I'm like, dude, it doesn't need to be this deep. Like, it really doesn't need to be this deep.
It's unbelievable, but I totally agree with you. They need to remove Teresa. Absolutely. I do think she should have a spin-off. I think she should have it with the daughters and with Louis, because, we all want to watch what's going to happen with her and Louis. Yeah. Give them a cute little, even if it's just a half hour, don't be tardy for the party type of thing. Let her do that. I also think Margaret should leave. And I love Margaret. I actually think Margaret's fantastic, but I don't think you can only get rid of I think you've got to get rid of someone from the other side too. And I think that Margaret
actually made successful housewife moves this season. Like, she was
did.
responsible for the flower wreath. She was responsible for like embarrassing Jackie 2 times. She made some real moves that like I felt like a pro housewife was in charge there.
I think, she's fantastic. Like, she's incredible, but I just think if you want to refresh the show and take it in like a new direction, she's kind of got to go. And I think keep some of the younger people. Obviously get rid of Jackie. I mean, my God.
Poor
Get rid
Jackie,
of
man.
yeah.
This is be careful what you wish for. I mean, you know, like you got back on the show, but at what cost?
The most humiliating Housewives trajectory ever. I mean, just so embarrassing. I think get rid of Jen Fessler, even though I think she's great, but it's like she never picks a side. She's never going to do conflict. She's, again, we've got to cut people and keep it fresh. Jen Aiden, I'm really on the fence about, because I will say I've always been like a day one Jen Aiden hater. Like, I always found her so contrived and obnoxious and not in an entertaining way. Like, she's one of those housewives, like her, like Chanel Ayan, just certain ones that just get under my skin where I'm like, I cannot. Jen Shah,
because they're performing. They're performing.
Yes, and I feel like Jen Aiden this last season for me was the season that I liked her, as because she became so evil that, and she was taking so much joy in it, that it was so funny. It was just so funny to me, like how happy she was to just do horrible things. But I also don't think it's healthy to have someone with that mindset on the show, because then there's not even any stakes to what you're doing, because all you care about is making chaos. And
there's no resolution. There's no resolution. It's just conflict. And you know, this shows were based on conflict resolution, which I always say, and Jersey really is all conflict now and no resolution.
And she needs to be punished, I think, for leaking to the bloggers in the way that she did. Because people love to make these false equivalences of like, oh, well, Margaret DMs people. It's like, nobody has done the way that Teresa and Jen were doing that, with paying people and timing it. And like, it's literally this, you cannot compare the two.
Yeah.
But I'm disappointed to see Jen Aiden go, but I kind of think she should. And I think Danielle Cabral is like a superstar. Like, she is like the future.
I mean, I said, you know, it's almost, I felt bad that she's in Housewives in this moment, because if she was on like in a different generation or like a different decade or another, like, she would be immediately a star. But I just think we're so caught up in this other bullshit that we're just not paying attention in the ways that we used to.
She is amazing, even though she was like, I think she was wrong in the end with how physical she kept getting, because it's like, yes, Jen Aiden is going to keep pushing your buttons because that's what she does. But like, look, I think we gave her a pass the first time she smacked Jen Aiden, because it's kind of like Jen had it coming, but like, you can't do it again, which she did on the you could do it once. You can't keep doing that every time.
You get one time.
Yeah. Jen Aiden, so go.
Sorry, no, I wanted to get to another topic really quick, our last one, but I was reading an article that you wrote on the Daily Mail, and I think this will be interesting for the audience in terms of the new RHONY, but you wrote an article about the new cast member, Rebecca Minkoff. And I don't know if you're allowed to talk about the article. I mean, it's on his, I'll give you his like Instagram and all that, and you can read the article yourself on his link tree. But I think it's very interesting, because I was one of those that a lot of the ladies already know who Rebecca Minkoff is. I'm a dude. I didn't. But then also her Scientology past was very interesting that this article brought up. What do you find fascinating about Rebecca Minkoff that we're going to meet?
Oh my God. Okay. So, you know, I pitched that story originally thinking it would just be a little story just of like, okay, she's connected to Scientology, whatever. And then I dug into it. And, you know, I'll be careful with what I say and how I word it, because we know Scientology is very litigious, but
shout out David Miscavige.
Her father was look, first of all, her family, the Minkoffs, they are elite level Scientologists. These aren't just run-of-the-mill Scientologists. These are like heavy hitters.
OT level clear.
Oh, they've met Xenu, had fucking cocktails with Xenu, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And her father was implicated in the death of, he didn't do anything wrong, so I'm not saying that, but he was implicated in this death, and I won't explain the whole story because there's so much to it, but you can check out the article. And I wrote that story, and it was all just information that was out there, and I did speak to an ex-Scientologist who she was fascinating, and she filled me in on the Minkoffs and some of that case. And what happened was, you know, when we do a story like that, we have to go to comment for everyone. So I had to reach out to Bravo, NBC. I had to reach out to Rebecca Minkoff. I had to reach out to the Church of Scientology. And the Church of Scientology's responses to me were so unhinged and crazy and vitriolic and just like mental institution type stuff as soon as I contacted them. And my thing is as well, I was not reaching out in bad faith. I was like, hey, if you want to put in any statement, if you want to refute any of this, like literally, if they had sent me like a whole freaking statement saying all the charity work, because I know that they do stuff with like drug prevention and other things like that, and they wanted me to highlight their philanthropy, I would have put like, but they were just very vicious from the get-go, threatening me, calling me a bigot against, you know, Scientology. And then the article came out and they essentially started stalking me online. They have all of these fake, they're like fake organizations, and they don't say that they're from Scientology, but they're all Scientology backed. And they pretty much target journalists that write anything negative about the church. And I started getting harassed on Twitter, like all Scientologists just mass spamming me on Twitter. And then I would like change my username, and then they would find the new username. Then they were accusing me of all these things of like, they said that I was colluding with Yasha Ali on this, which is not true.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they put me on like a website that is for like terrible journalists or something. They were like taking my photo and then photoshopping and writing sleaze bag. Yeah, it was like mental stuff. And you know, eventually I just kept blocking them and changing my username on things, and they've stopped. I don't know if it's going to start up again at some point. I didn't know how far it would go, but I thought it was out of control. And I did let NBC know. And you know, like, I'm not one of these, look, I think you can cast anyone. I'm not one of these people that's like, fire Kelly Dodd or whatever. Like, let anyone on. I don't care what side you're on. I just found there was a lot of hypocrisy with Bravo in the fact that, yes, you know, you fired a bunch of Vanderpump Rules people for like offensive tweets from like 10 years prior. And, you know, all of the, you fired Kelly Dodd because she said that what a mask doesn't protect you from a fart or whatever a quote was. And then you hire this like elite level Scientologist that her family is involved in one of the most controversial deaths in the history of the church. And I'm like, okay, so she's all right to hire, but like Kelly Dodd's a no-go. Okay.
What scares me though is that, is she going to be able to withstand the amount of press and like fandom that comes with these housewives? Because an article in the Daily Mail is the tip of the iceberg. Like, we've been talking this whole past hour about the fandom, and the fandom is going to go batshit when they start digging.
Yes. And I felt like it was something that Bravo should get ahead of. And I let them know that I was being harassed, because I was sort of trying to say to them, like, if, sorry, what the hell is that? I don't know, someone's knocking, just edit that out. I was trying to warn
the Scientologist.
Bravo. Yeah, it's actually creepy now. Oh my God, I'm scared. There's like this weird knocking. It like literally sounds like there's like a murderer in my house. Okay,
man,
now
I can't wait to be I can't wait to be a talking head in your eventual Dateline episode.
Yeah, my true crime documentary. But I was trying to let them know, like, hey, I've done this article, but like when the Bravo fans get a hold of this, and I also was like, you might want to know in case other journalists naturally start covering this, if there's going to be harassment. Like, I just think that's something they should know. I didn't really get a response back. When I did the article about Rebecca Minkoff, it didn't really do that well. Like, that was what was so funny about it. They were going after me and making such a big deal about the story. No one really even read it, because, you know, the show hasn't aired yet. And I wrote the article kind of after she was announced, because I was like, look, I know someone's going to cover this, so let me get ahead of it. But it was kind of like too soon, and nobody cared. But
but now when they start digging, that's what I'm saying. When they start digging, they're going to find that article and people are going to read it. So I find that interesting. And I just want to go on record. I love Tom Cruise, love Scientology. I'm a big fan of everybody. So leave me alone. Like, I did. The only time I once made fun of one of the people from One Direction. I forgot his name. Not Harry, but the other guy that had the baby with. Anyways, Zayn. The Zaniacs came after me. Like, the zany, like, I mean, like, found my family, and I was like, what the fuck? It was like anyways, holy shit, dude. I had no idea it was that. I just thought it was an interesting article of information that I had not known before. And I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting, because they even mentioned Scientology in the Roni preview. And I was like, oh, wow.
But I don't think they're going to cover it that much. I think that little clip that you see where they sort of bring it up. I don't think it's going to be like a major storyline,
Yeah.
but we'll see. But, you know, they didn't even end up putting Rebecca as a full-time cast member. And I think that maybe what happened was, I mean, maybe my article and some of the stuff coming out, and then Rebecca was like, oh, I don't know. You know, I was very confused, actually, that Rebecca Minkoff chose to go on The Real Housewives because of the level of scrutiny that you do come under from the fandom. And I was just a bit like, I know that it's a good platform, especially if you've got a fashion brand and stuff, but like, do you really want people digging into like...
How good is it? Like, when you can make money without this platform, I would imagine that's the best way to go.
Well, I also heard allegedly, this allegedly, I have no proof for this, but someone was like, no, her brand is like in the shitter. Like, it's not really making money. That's why she's doing it. But, you know, that may not be true. It could be $1 billion brand. I don't know.
Okay, dude, I could talk to you for like 2 more hours. Like, please come back, because this has been a blast. I needed this. I hope you had a good time.
I did.
But tell everybody, like, so Jacques has a podcast, you guys, Unpopular, right? And is on hiatus right now, but the older episodes you can still find, but there's also a Patreon which he updates. That's right?
Yes. You look, hit me up on Instagram at UnpopularJP, and then everything is in the link tree. And I actually might be making a little bit of a podcasting comeback. You know, I recorded a test episode with a friend, and, you know, it's like sorry to keep going on, but we were talking about this earlier about, is it better to be behind the scenes? And I was like, I don't know if I want to come back out, but I'm thinking about it. So there may be new content, but, you know, I'm always posting on my Instagram stories and stuff anyway. So please follow me. And
I just love catching up with you, and you are like, it shows like you can disagree with people and still really like them. Like, and I think there's more that people agree on than they disagree on. So, Jacques, thank you so much. Let's hang out, in LA one day, after you're done with your big producing gig, which I can't wait to tell you guys about. And, thanks, man. Come on anytime you want.
Perfect. Thank you. I look forward to it.